Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another video. It is New Year's Eve. I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic New Year's Eve tonight and a real fantastic 2020 as well. Before we go any further into this video, I just want to say a massive thank you for all of your support throughout 2019. The channel has grown massively. It's so nice to see so many people getting involved in the live streams, in the instant match reactions, in the comments, and engaging with what we've got a real fantastic community here. So I just want to say a big thank you for all of the support and all of your continued support and loyalty towards the channel in 2019, and I can't wait to get 2020 underway. If you're going out tonight to celebrate, which I assume a lot of you are because a lot of people do on New Year's Eve, then please do stay safe as well. Go out, celebrate, and see the new year in style. Obviously, it doesn't just mark the end of a year, it ends the mark of a decade. It ends the mark of the tens, obviously, and that is the theme of today's video. I'm going to give my Everton best 11 over the last 10 years. The last decade, obviously starting the decade in 2010 under David Moyes and ending the decade in 2019 under Carlo Ancelotti. Now, doesn't that just absolutely blow your mind to sit here and say starting the decade under David Moyes and ending the decade under Carlo Ancelotti? I'm going to give my best Everton 11 over the last 10 years, as well as my favourite Everton goal as well. What I want you guys to do in the live comments, if you get a minute today, I know it's New Year's Eve and I know you're going to be running around and you're going to be jam-packed trying to get as many things done as possible. I understand a lot of people are working as well today because it is just a normal day. But what I want you to do, if you get a second, is leave your best Everton 11 over the last 10 years in the comment section down below, as well as your favourite goals scored by an Everton player in the comments. And finally, I want to know your best moments of 2019. We'll talk about my best moments of 2019 towards the end of the video. But let's get straight into it. My best Everton 11 over the last decade. Starting in goal, I've gone for Tim Howard. Number 24, Tim Howard. Now, there hasn't been many Everton goalkeepers over the last 10 years that you can think, right, okay, you're in for contention. It really is only Tim Howard or Jordan Pickford, isn't it? Obviously, Jordan Pickford being the successor, to Tim Howard, coming in over the last couple of years. And, some people still have mixed opinions of Jordan Pickford. Some think he's good enough, some think he isn't. But one thing for sure, Tim Howard gave us amazing years at Everton. He gave us real some of his best years. Obviously, made some fantastic saves. The one against Southampton really sticks out to Goodison Park. Don't get me wrong, he did make a few mistakes here and there. His positioning at wise was questionable, but in terms of being a shot stopper, you can't argue that Tim Howard was one of the best to ever put the Everton shirt on. Obviously, didn't do it for Everton, but made the most saves in a single World Cup game, obviously for the United States in the 2014 World Cup. But he done that consistently for Everton as well. He was always there to stop one-on-one opportunities, and he was always there to make some real good saves when we needed him to. So here's my goalkeeper in this Everton team from the last decade. The back four is pretty much the same back four as I assume a lot of you will have gone with. I've gone for Seamus Coleman at right back and Leighton Baines at left back, two of the best fullbacks to ever wear an Everton shirt. 2013, 2014, these two for me were the best fullbacks in Europe. Obviously, they played the last game of the decade as well. They both started the first game of the decade, I believe, and they've played in the last game of the decade as well in our 2-1 win against Newcastle on Saturday, and also our 1-0 win against Burnley on Boxing Day. Absolutely fantastic to see Leighton Baines still bossing the defence at 35 years old, and really good to see Seamus Coleman still getting about and still consistently in the squad. Even if we've got like the likes of Luca Dean and Jagielka, who probably should be in the start 11 more over them due to obviously the youth and their recent performances. Luca Dean has been absolutely fantastic since he's come in, as has Jagielka. It's still really nice to see Seamus Coleman and Leighton Baines still in and around the team and still starting Premier League games for Everton as well. Two absolutely fantastic fullback. Seamus Coleman, like I said, being the best right back that I've ever seen in an Everton shirt, and Leighton Baines being one of the best left backs I've ever seen, period, whether it be in an Everton shirt or any other shirt. I think he's a criminally underrated footballer still to this day. An absolutely fantastic footballer and somebody that we are very lucky to have represented Everton Football Club for so long. Both players constantly giving 110% every time they put the shirt on, and the performances over the last 10 years have been so consistent that they're absolutely worthy of their place in this team. I've gone for two central defenders as Phil Jagielka and Sylvain Distin. This back four obviously noticeably playing under David Moyes and Roberto Martinez in his first season. Such a solid defence, leaked very few goals. and was really, really commanding as well, and nothing more commanding than the two centre-half. Phil Jagielka, who obviously captained Everton for over 6 years, and has only recently left the club last summer, obviously, to go back to Sheffield United. And Sylvain Distin, who in his day was such a fantastic, strong centre-half, a big, massive unit, and also a real fast centre-half, ball-playing centre-half as well. Going into the midfield, I've gone for the typical 4-2-3-1 formation, a formation that Evertonians are sick of seeing. We're so glad now under Carlo Ancelotti that we're seeing a more consistent 4-4-2 formation. But I have gone with a 4-2-3-1 because I think it's a little bit easier to pick the players in this formation. I've gone for a midfield two of Idrissa Gana Gueye and Leon Osman. Idrissa Gana Gueye, for me, listen, shown this season how much we're missing that lad. What a fantastic footballer he is. So calm on the ball, so collected. Like I said, runs his absolute bollocks off every single time he put an Everton shirt on. Like I said, we're missing him massively this season, and we've showed just the impact that he had on the Everton squad. Another Everton player that was massively underrated, and one that you don't realise how important they are until they're not there, and that's exactly what we found out at the start of this season when we massively struggled in the midfield. Idrissa Gana Gueye's performances over the years he was at Everton, obviously signing from Aston Villa for less than £10 million. He was constantly consistent. His ability in the midfield, he'd do a run round constantly, he'd win the ball back, his interceptions were fantastic, his tackling was fantastic, and his ability to hold the ball up and be calm and collected on the ball was unbelievable as well. I've gone for Leon Osman next to him, a player that I don't think a lot of people are having their best Everton 11s from the last 10 years, if I'm being honest with you, but for me, definitely deserves to be in there. Really consistent, obviously joining Everton and being in Everton since he was a kid, being in the first team for a number of years, captaining Everton as well, scoring some really important goals for Everton as well. One's in the Merseyside derby, one against Manchester City at Goodison Park, which is really obviously it sticks out in the memory of Evertonians. A fantastic midfielder, again, really underrated, a player that you either loved or didn't love as a fan, I think it's fair to say, but for me, there's absolutely no questioning Leon Osman's work rate, no questioning the fact that he always gave 110%, he always battled for the shirt, and he was an Evertonian through and through, and he showed that every time he stepped on the pitch. A real good role model, a real good professional, and a real solid footballer for the majority of the time at Everton. I've gone for Marouane Fellaini in the number 10. Again, probably upsets a few people because of the way he left in 2013, only really started only really played obviously 3 years of the decade. However, I can't really bring myself to put Ross Barkley in there, and I can't really bring myself to put Gylfi Sigurdsson in there. I'm fully open to anybody in the comment section down below. Like I said at the start of the video, please do leave your best Everton 11s of the last 10 years in the comment section down below so we can go through them. But for me, Marouane Fellaini on his day was an absolutely fantastic footballer. He was a nuisance for any defender that was up against him. He'd win balls in the air. He was a constant goal threat as well. And I think Marouane Fellaini's career was ruined when he was brought back and played as a sort of defensive midfielder. When he was at Everton, he was either played as a striker or a number 10. And I think in that number 10 role, he was absolutely fantastic at times for Everton Football Club against Manchester United. I remember at Goodison Park scoring the winner with a fantastic header. So I've got him there as the number 10. Left midfield, I've gone for Stephen Pienaar. Who else? Stephen Pienaar and Leighton Baines on that left has got to be the best partnership of the last 15 years, never mind decade. Stephen Pienaar, an unbelievable footballer in his time. Obviously had a few spells at Everton, joined Everton, left for Tottenham and then come back on loan and then come back permanently. An unbelievable player in his day, and even towards the end of his Everton career, like I said, him again only playing three or four years of the decade, but real specifics, games sticking out. The 4-4 against Manchester United, obviously, where he, I think it was Sir Alex Ferguson's last season, where he scored the equaliser at the end. A fantastic footballer on his day, unbelievably skillful. His footballing brain was fantastic as well, and for me, he has to be in the team. On the other side, I've gone for another name that I think some people may disagree with or mightn't necessarily want to put in there, but I've gone for Stephen Naismith. For me, Stephen Naismith is the ultimate professional footballer. He never, ever sulked. He always got his head down. He always worked his arse off, and he always put in 110% for the team. And not only that, his performances on the pitch showed that as well. Stephen Naismith was the typical... He epitomises the saying, not a scorer of great goals, but a great goal scorer. Stephen Naismith scoring hat-tricks against Chelsea, for example, at Goodison Park, and constantly scoring the winning goal for Everton, whether it be off the bench or whether it be starting. He was a consistent goal scorer. He wasn't the fanciest player you'll ever see in an Everton shirt. He wasn't the most technically able player, but he was always, nearly always on the goal sheet when you needed them to be. He was consistent. He'd run his arse off every time he was put on the pitch. Like I said, he wasn't technically the best, but he was a goal scorer. He'd run his arse off and he'd give 110%. And for me, a top professional in his time at Everton, I remember quite fondly. Now, I know there's a lot of Evertonians that, you know, maybe didn't quite like Stephen Naismith or didn't feel he was good enough for the club, but the fact of the matter is he scored some really, really important goals for Everton and he won us a lot of games, and he was always the ultimate professional. He got his head down, he worked hard, and for me that's why he's in my Everton team of the last decade. And then up front, who other than Romelu Lukaku? I know he left us in a sour light. I know he's been an absolute idiot in the media when discussing us and when talking about us previously, obviously since he went to Manchester United. I know he's not flavour of the month with Evertonians, or flavour of the decade with Evertonians, should we say. But, you know, I think you cannot argue that he has been our best striker over the last 10 years. It would be absolutely stupidity to put anybody else anywhere near that position. You know, Romelu Lukaku scoring hundreds of goals for Everton, being a real consistent goal threat, and like I said, our best striker over the last 10 years, and our most consistent player arguably as well, definitely most consistent striker over that period of time as well. Fantastic goal scorer, scored some really, really important goals for us. Chelsea in the FA Cup rings a bell as well. Okay, he did disappear at times when we needed them, but like I said, if you're making an Everton 11 of the last decade and you know you're trying to keep it as honest and as you want, then you know it's real tough to not put Romelu Lukaku in there as the number 9. So anyway, that is my Everton 11 of the last 10 years. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section down below. A few players in there that I think a lot of people wouldn't have expected: Leon Osman and Stephen Naismith, to name a couple there. Let me know your Everton 11 of the last 10 years as well in the comments. If you get a minute, Jordan, a busy New Year's Eve, leave it in the comments and I'll be having a look at them and replying to as many of them as possible as well. Moving on to goal of the decade now. Listen, there's loads of honourable mentions for this. For me, one sticks out for various different reasons and wins it for me. But there's loads of different, you know, honourable mentions. And this is such a topic that I think is so... It's varied. A lot of people can pick a lot of different goals. There's been some fantastic goals scored by Everton players over the last 10 years. You've got Lukaku's versus Chelsea in the quarter-final of that FA Cup that we spoke about before. You've got Wayne Rooney's versus West Ham from the halfway line, and an exquisite finish at Goodison Park. Ross Barkley's versus Manchester City. I know a lot of people won't pick that because, you know, it's Ross Barkley and obviously he left the club in a very, very sour light. But in terms of the goal and the technical ability the goal took, can't really take anything away from it. It's a fantastic finish. Leighton Baines' versus Newcastle, which was my number 2, very, very close number 2 to the one I picked as number 1. You know, the free kick from 35-40 yards, an absolutely unbelievable free kick, a fantastic goal, and definitely worthy of the goal of the last 10 years for me if it wasn't for who I put in number 1. Gylfi Sigurdsson versus Leicester last season was also a pick for me and was also an honourable mention. Obviously the turn is fantastic and the finish to win the game is exquisite as well. But for me, the winner of the best Everton goal of the last 10 years feels like a little bit of an award show, this, isn't it? No one's getting a reward, no one's getting anything for it, but my favourite Everton goal of the last 10 years has to be Phil Jagielka's against Liverpool. 93rd, 94th minute of a Merseyside derby, 1-0 down. Everything seems to be done and dusted. Liverpool fans in the pub, drinking their beer, happy as laddie. And I specifically remember this goal, and this is part of the reason as to why it's one of my favourite goals ever scored by an Everton player, and definitely my favourite in the last 10 years, because I remember being sat in my local pub, being the 92nd, 93rd minute, being surrounded by Evertonians, and there being one Liverpoolian, one Copite on the table next to us, who quite calm, quite comfortably had his pint, had his Liverpool shirt out in force, was laughing his head off because he thought that his team were about to go and win the Merseyside derby. But no, up steps Phil Jagielka, 35-yard volley, rockets in the top corner, an unbelievable goal. And like I said, I specifically remember this because the entire pub lifted, drinks went everywhere, tables went everywhere, and before you could sort of calm yourself down and settle down with the emotion, that Liverpool fan that was standing in that corner, he'd got off, he'd disappeared, he'd walked away, and you didn't know where he was. He'd left the pub, I think. And for me, not only that, not only the significance of it being the last minute of a Merseyside derby at Anfield to get us the point that we so desperately needed, but also the fashion of the goal. It wasn't a tap in, it wasn't, you know, a regular header from a corner. It was a 35-40 yard absolute volley, a screamer, and for me the best Merseyside derby goal ever scored, and for me that's why it takes the spot as the best Everton goal of the last decade. But I dare say some of you have different opinions, so please do let me know your opinions in the comment section down below as well. I'd be really, really interested to hear them. But for me, you just don't top that moment, do you? An Everton captain who's given everything for the football club over the years he's been here, hitting one from 35 yards in front of the Kop at Anfield to equalise in the last second when they thought they'd all had it done and dusted. It's just an absolutely unbelievable moment in the history of Everton Football Club. And finally, to end the video, I'm going to give my moments of 2019. There's been some ups, there's been some downs. The Manchester United game, obviously, a massive, massive up. Fantastic win, 4-0 at Goodison Park. The back end of last season, beating United, beating Arsenal, beating Chelsea, some really, really good moments. But for me, it's a very, very recent moment, and it is my favourite of 2019, and that is the appointment of Carlo Ancelotti. I think it shows so much ambition, it shows so much promise and purpose going forward for Everton Football Club that it's very, very hard to look past that as the best moment of the year. So many exciting times ahead for Everton Football Club, obviously, coming off the back of two really, really good wins against Burnley and Newcastle. We play Manchester City tomorrow. Let's hope we can go and put out another good performance in that game, and then, of course, the Merseyside derby in Anfield on Sunday. Let's hope we can make a good account of ourselves in that game. But like I said, real positives going forward and a real exciting future for Carlo Ancelotti and Everton Football Club, as well as the channel as well. I've got some big plans for the new year, and I just want to say once again a massive thank you for all of your continued support throughout 2019. It's been absolute pleasure making the videos, making the live streams, making the reactions, and like I said, I just want to say a big thank you for everybody that stuck by me through the year and that supported consistently. Let's hope for a better 2020. Let's hope for a belter year for the Blues, a belter year for Carlo Ancelotti, and hopefully we can bring home some silverware. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's video. Like I said, leave your best Everton 11s over the last 10 years in the comment section down below, as well as your favourite Everton goal scorers and your best moments of 2019. A big thanks for watching once again. Have an absolutely fantastic new year. Please do stay safe if you're going out tonight as well. Please do hit the like button on the video if you have enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll see you in 2020 with what hopefully is a real positive, happy, instant match reaction to hopefully an Everton win against Manchester City at the Etihad. Big thanks for watching. Leave a like if you have enjoyed. See you in 2020. Carlo Fantastico, Carlo Magnifico. Ole Ancelotti. Come on, you Blues, up the toffees.